Welcome to this episode of Talking Grassroots. I'm your host, Ricky Ettridge, and joining me is my co-host, Ricky Logan. Welcome, mate. How's your week been?
I don't want to talk about it, thanks, mate.
Tough week last week.
Well, if you're a fan of NFL, it's been a tough week for some teams, and one of them, was supposed to win the Super Bowl, was supposed to, do all this and that, and first week exit against the 7 seeds. So, I don't really want to talk about it.
I don't think you were them boys this year, mate. Well, better than me is last night. So we recorded this on Saturday, the 20th. So yesterday afternoon, Melbourne Victory, my team that I'm a member of and support passionately. We're playing and 1-0 up in the 95th minute and it, gave away an equaliser. So that sort of ruined my weekend already, but no.
And got in a bit of trouble, did you?
Yeah, I sort of got put in the bad books with the use of language I used when it happened, and then told Kelly that don't you talk to me, don't tell me not to say that.
Well, I gotta say that the neighbours have mentioned to my missus a couple of times, like, "Oh, why does your partner yell so much?" And I said it's only when Carlton and the Cowboys are playing. That's the only time you hear me yelling.
But nah, that's unfortunate. Well, yeah, unfortunately, you couldn't join us at the pub last Sunday for drink but a few beers and watching what ended up being a pretty boring playoff game. But speaking of the NFL playoffs, it got me thinking. So the Bills-Steelers game was postponed due to weather in the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Miami game was like below a negative 31 or something along those lines.
So about negative 5 degrees.
Nah, I think it was worse than that.
Like Celsius, negative 5 Celsius, something like that.
So it got me thinking, what's the worst weather you've ever played in? Obviously, we don't get that type of conditions down here, but you've got to have played in some absolutely shocking weather in your time playing sport.
Yeah, well, I played in the grand final just around the corner here at KC Fields, and it was monsoonal weather. It was the worst rain seen in a long time. It was windy. It was absolutely bucketing down with rain, and it felt like I was ankle deep in water the whole game. Like I got a free kick in the last quarter and barely could get my foot out of the ground to kick the ball, and we lost the game on a toe poke goal in the dying 5 minutes of the game to put them in front by a point. Or 2 points, I think it was, that put them in front. I think there was 4 goals kicked for the whole game, and I think 2 of those were kicked in the first quarter.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I was, when I was thinking about this, I was trying to actually rack my brain. I remember once back in under 10s or something like that, we played in absolutely shocking weather, got called off at half time, but you're 10 years old, so it might not have been that bad. But it was actually, the worst one I can remember vividly was probably a couple of years ago. I think it was the 2021 season at our home ground against Dingley on a Friday night, and it was just blowing into one of the pockets. It was raining sideways, and it was cold. It was shit. But anyway, we'll get stuck into it. So we're actually going to start off with something a little bit outside of our local footy talk, and a bloke that we know that we've met through a previous podcast we've done, Jake Norris, and him and his mate are actually, he's based out in Vietnam, and he's actually on a decent trek around Vietnam. And you've got all the details for us, mate. So fill us in what Jake is doing.
Yeah, well, first of all, get everyone to go over and check out Vietnam Charity Walk, a walk for change. So that's the Facebook page. They're doing an unbelievable effort, Jakey and Sean. They're fully self-supported, walking from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, covering a distance of approximately 2,000 kilometers in 60 to 70 days, which is something that is friggin' unbelievable. And the weather they're dealing with while doing this trek has been, you talk about inclement weather. One day they're in the pissing down rain, the next day it's 35 degrees and humid. And yeah, so it's an unbelievable trek they're going on, and they're doing it all to raise money for a couple charities. One of them is they're both to help with kids, so the Blue Dragon Children's Foundation and the Tarn Lock Project. So the Blue Dragon Children's Foundation is working with street kids, victims of human traffic, runaways, kids affected by drugs and HIV, homeless families, and child prisoners. They work tirelessly to transform the lives of kids in crisis. At the time of writing, Blue Dragon have impacted the lives of over 50,000 children and families, rescued 1,300 from trafficking, reunited 736 runaways with their families, sent 6,208 kids back to school, and transformed the lives of 2,000 children in Hanoi. And there's also the Tan Loc Project based in Mekong Delta. They work to provide hope and education to one of the poorest regions of Vietnam through building of houses, schools, toilets, playgrounds, and sort of all the infrastructure stuff. So they're doing this trek to raise money. They're relying on donations. And just a little insight on what sort of the money will help do. If every $1 provides full day's meals for a child, another $1 brings a victim of human trafficking 1 kilometre closer to home. $15 feeds a family of 4 for a week. $28 to $70 provides a child with school education for a month, and $120 reunites a street kid with their family, plus obviously much, much more. And so, these are just two regular guys that are, trekking themselves across Vietnam. Jake Norris and Sean Down, they're doing an unbelievable job.
You're missing one crucial part about this trek, the footwear Jake's doing it in.
Yeah, he's in some thongs most of the time. They're decent thongs. I don't know the brand off the top of my head, but they're one of the supporters, I think. But he even did a 24-hour challenge. So on the 30th of December, he attempted to walk 70 to 100 Ks with his backpack on over 24 hours. So I think he got over 70 Ks in that 24-hour span. Unbelievable trek that they're going on, and they're doing some great things to raise some money for these child organisations, and they're doing daily posts, keeping everyone updated on what's going on. They've actually got a giveaway going on at the moment. They've got a e-bike that was donated to them that they're doing a giveaway for, so you can get in on that if you donate. I think they're about halfway to their goal.
Yeah, they're about there, I'm pretty sure. So get behind Jake Norris and the boys at the Vietnam charity walk. So amazing effort they're doing. So we'll get stuck into some local footy topics. And during the week, Masala Football Club out of the Victoria Amateur Football Association, based in, I think, Dandenong North, they're based. They were in Division 4 of VAFA, so what has now become the Division 3 due to the fact that they've restructured. They put out a message on their social medias informing that the club is unfortunately not going to field a seniors and reserves team this year, but they're going to fall into the thirds competition of the VAFA. So this is what the president wrote on the club's Facebook page. Following what has been a tough off-season for the club, the Masala committee held a vote last night following weeks of communication with the VAFA determined the club should participate in the thirds competition in 2024. A unanimous vote was reached between the committee, with the decision reached that will partake in thirds competition in the upcoming season. The committee has come to the decision to ensure our valued players can remain playing competitive and enjoyable football in the upcoming 2024 season. The decision to play in the third division is one that the committee also believes is vital to ensure the survival of the club. And just goes on to thank the committee and the VAFA for being understanding, and also to say that they do have their eyes on returning to seniors and reserves football in 2025. Now, you and me, part of a club that took this route 5 years ago, went from divisional football into thirds, and sort of ironically in exactly the same demographic area. What are your thoughts on this decision by Masala to drop from seniors and reserves into just thirds, mate?
Yeah, I think it's good that the club has got behind whoever decided that was the right thing to do for the club. As they've said here, that sort of, some key figures, including players and coaches that they've lost over the last couple of years. It makes it hard. Like, said, we are from the same area, same demographic of
I think
players and stuff.
Masala was. I don't think it's even 7 minutes down the road. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. We have so many clubs within walking distance or, a quick drive distance to us that aren't even in the same league. But hopefully, it turns out a bit better for them and they were able to get back to divisional football after just a year or two down in the thirds. But like they said, to get back to enjoying and playing some competitive football is probably what's key for them, and I wish them all the best with it. Hopefully it helps them grow back up and they can get some, people in to replace those key figures they've lost over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's a good decision from Masala's standpoint and also from the VAFA standpoint. Obviously, we spoke last week about VAFA having lost a couple of clubs out, and they probably don't want to lose another one. And the VAFA does have a pretty strong thirds competition. I think they've got about 4 divisions. I know that Chadstone at one point was just a thirds team, might still just be a thirds team out there. The now Narry South Saints was originally St. Francis Xavier. They just dropped down to a thirds team. And when I look at teams that have to make that decision to drop to a thirds, and I use it as our example when we dropped to a thirds, was you look at St. Francis Xavier, they went from struggling senior reserve outfit, dropped to the thirds. I think they had 2 seasons in just thirds, won a premiership in their second season, built back up a player base and supporter base, went back to divisional football, won a flag, and then ended up actually shifting to probably potentially a stronger division in the league they went to. So there's always a way out, but it's just finding that way out that can be hard because as you're fully aware, you can have all the intention of where to go back to senior reserves, but you get in that position, sometimes it's actually harder to dig yourself out of it.
Yeah, I think by the looks of it, the whole committee's on board. Everyone's, supporting the move. And if you're all working together with a goal in mind and that goal is clear, then hopefully the right things can happen for them. And I think importantly for the players that are sticking by the club, it's that they get to play some competitive football. And like you said, the thirds in the VAFA is a multi-division competition. It's not just some, rinky-dink comp where people just think that it's, a bunch of has-beens or nobody's going to have a kick. It's a decent quality competition and, it's not a walk in the park. They won't just go down and win a flag and it'll all be great. It'll be a competitive football for them, but still a bit more enjoyable than trying to scrape together 2 teams every week.
Yeah, exactly right. It becomes hard, and it becomes extremely hard on the. I think what a lot of people forget is when you are in a club that is scraping players, to get 2 teams up. The amount of pressure then heaped on the reserves coach to make the phone calls. I think that sort of gets forgotten when a club's in that position. The amount of extra work reserves coach has to do, as we've seen, is incredible. So, on the topic of thirds, as we know, the Southern Football Netball League have a thirds competition that we have participated in previously, which is actually a very strong competition nowadays compared to where it started. 2 or 3 Mornington Peninsula League clubs have actually expressed interest in fielding standalone sides in the thirds division in the Southern. That's Edithvale Aspendale, who are in Division 2, Langwarrin, who are in Division 1, and Pearsdale, who it was the third team to come forward and say they wouldn't mind doing it. They are Division 2. So Langwarrin won all 3 grades last year, the premierships in all 3 grades. EDS won the reserves flag. And President Peter O'Connor from EDS Eagles went on to say in this article with Leader Football that we won the reserves flag and there were probably 7 or 8 who missed out. And a few missed out in our under-19s. They want to play footy for the jumper. We've tried them playing at other clubs and they just want to play at Edie. O'Connor said fielding a side in Southern League would provide EDS's overflow of players a chance to play a game each week. And it's structured in such a way they can play on a Friday night or a Saturday morning. They come back and watch their mates play and have a beer and that sort of thing, he said. So first question for you is, what are your thoughts on 3 clubs from a completely different league actually wanting to come and put in a team in a rival league.
It's an interesting one. I think it can get a little bit messy with some of these things. Like the intentions, I completely understand from the club's point of view. I completely agree with what he said. You know, you got guys that want to play for the jumper, still want to play for the club that might not be up to the standard that's required for a reserves or senior player, but just want to play with their mates and stuff. So I completely understand from a club point of view. Let's keep them in the jumper. Let's put in the thirds. And I think, you know, MPNFL probably in the long term would be looking at something like starting their own thirds if it gets to too many teams. I think the tricky thing is going to another league and having these thirds teams where you've got clubs that have been in the Southern forever that, you know, continue to scrape together a thirds teams for years, and you know you got some of those bottom teams that, you know, they might push up to Fords finals and stuff for a little while, but evidently they're in the same position. They got guys that just want to play for Endeavour Hills or whoever it might be, that they just want to play with their mates and have a game of footy, and then all of a sudden they're coming up against blokes that are missing out on a Resi's game for a powerhouse MPNFL club. It could get a little sticky, you know.
A couple of issues I would find with it is, one, as you are fully aware, how often did a club put a thirds team in one year and weren't there the next? So are we going to end up in a situation where the SFNL will bring clubs in, after 12 months they go, oh, it's not really worth it, and then all of a sudden Southern are left scratching their heads trying to find more clubs to put in their division? Is, you know, obviously leagues are pretty strict on their apparel partners and stuff like that. Are they going to allow clubs to come in wearing different logos, different apparel partners? And then what I would think, if you've already got 3 clubs saying they want to get a thirds competition going, surely you can probably find I think it's 20 teams, around 20 teams in the MPNFL. Surely you can find another 5 clubs that can field a thirds competition, have a 8-team thirds competition in your own league.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even if it happens this year and these teams go to Southern and do it, if they're successful at it, other MPNFL teams could think, oh, well, let's do the same thing. And then there you go. You've got your 8 teams, and MPNFL goes, well, let's start our own. So, yeah, it's like, I hope it all sort of works out, and Southern probably, you know, they'll probably help these guys out as much as they can.
Southern are very, for what we're aware of, Southern are very good at accommodating and helping clubs out when they can.
Lee Hartman and the guys at Southern have been nothing but great for us to work with in our time in charge of the club and stuff. So, yeah, they just want to see good quality local footy happen, and they take the thirds comp serious. They don't, you know, it's not just something that's scraped together. You know, they try and put as much effort into it as they can as such. But I'd hate to see it sort of get taken advantage of by other clubs that sort of look at it as like a place to just make sure blokes are sticking around the club. But, you know, one week when they've only got 15 blokes, they go, stuff will forfeit. And so, you know, it throws the competition out. If you've got a club that's willing to forfeit every few weeks if they can't be stuffed playing, it's sort of, you know, it does put out other clubs.
Yeah, it becomes unfair. We had that issue at quite a couple of times playing thirds, where you'd get to the back end of a season and the clubs that were all throughout the season always struggling to get the full numbers up were all of a sudden out of finals contention. They're playing against clubs that are finals bound. Last few weeks, they just go, oh, well, you know, what's the point? But just to be clear, they haven't actually put in formal applications yet. These are all from the last articles we've read. They've just sort of expressed a bit of interest within the club and sort of wouldn't mind doing it. They have until February, I believe, to actually submit an expression of interest or want to do it.
I think, you know, it is sort of the off time at the moment, so there's not a lot happening with leagues and stuff. But I think once everyone's back in the offices and businesses starting to crack on again, that you'll start seeing official applications launched and stuff. So.
All right, so moving on from one league, looking at accepting another league's clubs, we're actually going to talk about that league, the Mornington Peninsula Football Netball League, actually denying entry back in August. It was back in August, so this is a bit dated, but they denied the entry of Cranbourne, Karen Patterson Lakes, Frankston Dolphins, Narre Warren, and South Mornington and Pakenham were all denied entry into the MPNFL. The 6 MPNFL eager clubs needed 75% of approval, which they didn't get. And Narre Warren's president, Stuart Stevenson, was fairly strong about what they thought their outcome was going to be, and pretty disappointed not to get in like most clubs. What are your thoughts on the MPNFLs? Obviously, it's the clubs that have, the current MPNFL clubs that have sort of rejected it. What are your thoughts on this? Because this feels like it's on every year. They're rejecting applications for clubs to try and come in.
Yeah, I think how many times has Cranbourne tried to go across there now? There's
3 or 4, and Narre would be the same, I reckon.
Yeah, I think the league's trying to do the right thing. They're trying to expand their league, and I think it's probably short-sighted by some of the clubs to vote against new clubs coming in. I think league CEOs and committees of leagues, their whole concern is that whole league and expanding or, bettering the league as a whole, whereas at a club point of view, you just want to win and you just want to make finals, and, accepting a powerhouses like Cranny and Narre to the league are probably going to affect some of those powerhouse clubs more than anything. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of short-sightedness from a club point of view. Hopefully, in the future, if some expansion does happen, it is voted on before they approach clubs, because I don't know why you'd be approaching the clubs if you haven't at least got it.
We had heard from a source that we have that the MPNFL is actually approaching clubs from multiple leagues to actually try and persuade them to put an application in. So the fact that other clubs are being rejected, and some of these clubs are actually probably two of these clubs are probably smack bang same area as one of the clubs that we're aware of. So I do find it a little bit strange, being the fact that if they had have actually accepted these 6 clubs, there's every possibility they could have actually expanded their league to 6 divisions. To 3 divisions with 6 extra clubs coming in. I get it from a club point of view, like you never really want more better teams in there. But the fact that, Cranbourne and Narre and even Pakenham were originally part of the MPNFL structure back before they branched out into South East. I know that there was Casey Cadinia League, but I just sort of don't really understand that side of things of why. And look, I could be wrong here, but I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago when Cranbourne was trying to get in, one of the explanations that somebody gave was, it's just a little too far away. Keeping in mind that Devon Meadows are in the MPNFL, and Devon Meadows would be no more than probably 4 minutes now from where Cranbourne play out of, but Cranbourne was too far. And the other funny thing about that was the club that I heard it was, Cranbourne's actually closer time travel wise than some of the clubs are playing in the MPNFL anyway, down on the peninsula.
Some of those things, it's weird. Like I said, I don't think it has anything to do with travel. I think when Cranbourne's been as good as Cranbourne has for so long, I think teams that are up there in fighting for finals in their divisions are probably going, we don't want this club coming in.
Yeah, and Narre the same. I also find it a little bit unfair on those clubs. Like Narre, for example, they've been, I don't know how many grand finals they've made in the Outer East since they've been there. I think it's pretty much almost every one of them. Yes, winning flags and winning games is brilliant, but at some point you want to actually a bit more competition. Like you might have 1 or 2 good teams, but you want to be playing a competition where every week's an absolute grind. Where at the moment, it just doesn't feel like they have that. Yeah, it's a bit of short-sightedness from the MPFNL, especially when you're trying to grow. I mean, obviously, probably Southern and Outer East definitely won't be too upset about that decision. They keep their clubs.
Yeah, Southern's only just accepted a couple of these clubs recently, so they'd be pretty annoyed to then lose them, a couple of years later. Which, I think it probably highlights a bigger issue with local footy as a whole, where there is so many leagues that cross over each other within these short distances that there probably needs to be some better, I don't know, workings of these leagues, and maybe a merger of some of them, that they some of these leagues merge together and create a super league with all of these teams. I think.
And the other thing as well with maybe not necessarily Narry and Packy being the fact that they play in leagues that have the netball attached. Cranbourne, Carrum, Frankston, and South Mornington probably all want to go out the country as well to get netballers in a line. I did see something yesterday because Southern obviously doesn't have a football netball combined on a day that Cranbourne have actually introduced netball back in. I'm not too sure what type of league it is, but sort of like a league for this area that has even a couple of clubs out in the Eastern Footy Netball League coming in. So, yeah, I just don't know. I also just don't know how long they can keep knocking back clubs for before it starts to get a little bit old. But I do feel like it's probably a change of people at the top that will bring about change in this type of situation.
Yeah, like I said, it all comes down to the clubs. I think hopefully one day they'll see the bigger picture of it all and know that an expansion for the league is better for them as a whole. Southern's only got bigger over the last 10 years now. It's probably accepted a few teams.
Yeah, from the time that I started down there to where it's gotten to, when I started, it literally sort of just felt like it was this. I don't want to be rude, but it literally just sort of felt like this shit kicker competition that just had the rough teams in it.
It had a bit of a bad rep.
Yeah, it's probably the best way to put it. And in the 15 years I've been there, gradually you've actually seen the professionalism of the league actually pick up a lot and become much more respected than what it probably was 15 years ago.
Especially now when your facilities are St Kilda facilities as well. Your headquarters, you're sharing facilities with an AFL team. So they probably, they work in together as well. They're getting to play grand finals on a training ground for a AFL team, and the league itself is seeing what professional teams, how they work and stuff. So it's probably increased the professionalism. I think Lee Hartman's been fantastic for the Southern League, and they've definitely
a lot of good people doing a lot of good things at Southern. So the next topic that we'll touch on, this is actually quite old, but this is actually quite. When I first read it, I was a little bit taken aback and a bit disappointed because I actually quite love this service. So Clutch TV went into administration back in September. So an article from Matthew Elkerton on the Herald Sun. In a blow to community sports across Australia, live streaming service Clutch TV has gone into administration. It is understood Clutch, which owned the Clutch TV brand, went into voluntary administration on September 25. The first meeting of creditors was on October 6th. It is believed Clutch TV, which has the brand behind several sports streaming startups, including Live Hockey, Q Plus TV, and NetballAustralia.tv, have informed sporting partners that they will cease providing production for their events immediately. Now, this is very disappointing because quite a few leagues and clubs actually use Clutch TV, and I actually thought it was probably one of the best services out there. I used to love, especially during finals time, being able to sit at the back of my deck with a beer in hand and watch live local footy from all over Victoria. So to hear this is actually pretty disappointing, and from what I read, they were quite a fair bit in debt.
Yeah, it is disappointing to hear, especially we're in the same space trying to work ourselves out. But yeah, they were a good service. I think some of the issues with these types of streaming services are coming to the forefront, and even the big players like KO are having issues with some of their the way they're able to deliver content, and the price increases and all that sort of stuff. I think it's making it increasingly difficult.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into this type of stuff, and a lot of it is the price of actually having servers that can hold all your product and websites that can. That's why a lot of like a lot of clubs, a lot of leagues, like Southern use My Game Zone, I think it is.
My Stream Zone.
My Stream Zone. That's a month, a charge on that, because you've got to actually pay for it. It's disappointing because like so many leagues used Clutch TV to get their product out there, which in a way, from somebody, I think a lot of the Clutch TV was like behind the scenes, like the score overlays and stuff like that. Obviously, always issues when you're live streaming sport, but it's just disappointing that now all these clubs and leagues that have invested heavily in the Clutch TV now can't do it. And from what I read, is that they knew they were in a bit of trouble and then kept taking a fair bit of money after they sort of knew they were in trouble, which is where they're going to probably find themselves in a bit of strife. But it's disappointing. Obviously, we know the logistics and finances behind live streaming sport, and when you're trying to put so many things on a platform, it does become quite hard to still offer the same services at the same cost for leagues and clubs, and also not hurt your bottom line.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see services like Netflix and all this sort of stuff. Like, it costs you what, $20 a month for Netflix, and you're getting all this A-grade Hollywood stuff, and they think, well, how come it costs me $30 to stream some local footy? Well, because it costs a lot of money to do this, and your Clutch TV might have a couple thousand subscribers if they're lucky, where Netflix has got millions across the world. So there's a lot of overheads that go into creating these services and maintaining, like you said, the servers and all this stuff to have this stuff streaming.
And right there, you're not even taking into account the cost of paying somebody to be behind the camera. Multiple cameras, they're running multiple cameras. If they're running multiple cameras, they've probably got a producer there running that, plus commentators and all that type of stuff. That costs money.
Yeah, and you think about there's how many games of AFL footy there are a week?
9.
There's 9 games of footy a week. That's it, right? And that's how many millions of dollars is paid to Channel 7 and Foxtel to invest in that. And, they got partners and sponsors and all that sort of stuff. But think about how much local sport it's getting played and trying to get some type of airtime and there's not enough sponsors and not enough people investing into it and helping out these services. So it's gonna, people want to see it. The handful of people that are involved in certain clubs will want to see their teams and stuff, but it does cost a lot of money, and without the support to it, it's never going to work.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we're going to just cover one more topic, just because what I was going to end this podcast on, I really don't want to do off the back of that discussion. So back in December, a massive recruit for local footy with Shane Harvey, who was a North Heidelberg legend of the club, played AFL level, had pinned his retirement, and he's since backflipped and has signed with Kinglake for 2024. So in this article from the Herald Sun by Ben Higgins back in December, the Northern League's greatest goal kicker is back. Shane Harvey's put his retirement on the back burner after signing with the Northern Football Netball League Division 3 contender Kinglake for 2024. The legendary forward announced his retirement mid-season before delivering one last extraordinary display for North Heidelberg. Harvey kicked 1,053 goals in 235 games for the Bulldogs, winning 2 premierships, a Rosebrook medal, 7 league goal kicking awards, 5 club best and fairest, 2 coaches MVPs, a grand final medal, and 11 team of the year honours. He made a brief appearance for Outer East club Linda Fernie Creek later in the season, kicking 21 goals in 6 games. During probably maybe March, we'll probably get stuck into the biggest recruits in the off season for clubs. But mate, this is a big coup for Kinglake.
Yeah, unbelievable coup for Kinglake, and not only does it bring Shane Harvey, but his family will hopefully get involved as well. But man, anyone that's kicked over 1,000 goals in 250 something games for a club, but won a couple flags and all the accolades he has, he's an absolute gun local footy legend player. 21 goals in 6 games and this isn't some massive 6'5" full forward.
No, this is a bloke that probably
he's not much bigger than me, and he's running around toweling up these teams and kicking.
He's definitely a player that easily could have continued to play AFL level. He really put his mind to it. But I know that he's loved down at North Heidelberg. I've actually been to North Heidelberg's rooms going back a few years ago now. We had a wake there, and the club's very proud of the Harvey boys down there, and to win, to have that many accolades of Rosebrook medals, 7 league goal kickings, 5 club best and fairest, 11 team of the year honours. Like, it just goes to show the quality that Kinglake is bringing in, and also bringing in into a lower division too. So Shane obviously at North Heidelberg in the upper divisions is now dropped down to Kinglake. It's going to be interesting to see how Kinglake go with Shane Harvey there.
Yeah, hopefully it works out good for him. And like I said, if anything, it's going to help bring some support to the club as well. So, yeah, he's one of those guys that's been a legend for North Heidelberg, and he's well supported there. So hopefully Kinglake gets the support that he's gathered along his career.
So he'll join 2014 North Heidelberg Premiership teammates and new Kinglake coach David Florence and Lee Gilbert at Memorial Oval. Harvey actually joins a stunning influx of talent into the competition. The likes of Brent McCaffar from Old Eltham Collegians, Sam Gilmore, Old Paradians, Brett Marshall Mernda, and Neville Jetta Fitzroy Stars will play in the Northern's third tier. That's some big names running around in third division football. Mate, we'll probably wrap that up here. Before we do, I just want to, obviously, this is from Halfback Digital Media. It's been a pretty good off-season for the business. So one of the things that we do is the social media game week content management, where we pretty much look after your entire game week content. Proud to announce that we've actually signed Mitcham Football Club to the family this year. So we're looking after all their game week content. And Gavin, the Vice President from Mitcham, has been absolute pleasure to deal with. He's very upright, upfront and straight to the point, which I enjoy. We've also signed Barwon Heads Football Netball Club for 2024, new one, and also kept on board AFL Masters New South Wales and Burnside Heights Football Club at the moment, and a few more in the works. The other thing that we offer, mate, is game filming. So we've got a special at the moment going for practice matches, a flat fee of $275 for your practice match. We're also restructuring our pricing for normal season filming. So a flat rate of $300 no matter where you are, $300. Live streaming, actually a couple of dollars on top of that. But we are currently trying to source some business partners, which will hopefully get a handful on board, which we can then subsidise that extra fee for live streaming and give live streaming for the same price as game filming on a weekly basis. So if you're involved in a club that you want to get some game filming for practice matches or regular season, just get in contact either at our socials at Halfback Digital Media or shoot me an email at info@halfbackdigitalmedia.com. And the same if you run a business that you want a bit of extra promotion. The business partners will get promotion on, obviously, the podcast. You'll get promotion on here, on our socials. You'll have promotion on every game that goes out to our clubs across the season. And obviously a fair bit of promotion on our live streams when we do them. So same thing. If you want to get involved or have a chat about that, just send an email to info@halfbackdigitalmedia.com, or again, just shoot me a direct message on our socials at halfbackdigitalmedia. So unless you've got anything else you want to touch on, mate?
I'll just add on to that. Some clubs might think that you have to sign up for a whole season you don't have to, like, when it comes to game filming and especially streaming, if you've got a special occasion, you've got a milestone match, that's the time to get us down there to film it. So it's, either film it or, live stream. If you've got a ladies' day or a past players event or something like that where you're going to have everyone in the rooms for an event, we can be live streaming it straight to TVs in the rooms while you're have your event going on and the match at the same time. So
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think a lot of clubs do sort of think, oh, we're going to pay for a full. So even home game, we'll do clubs just home games. We do one-off games here and there. Last year we did fill up pretty quickly, so I probably wouldn't drag your feet this year. We've already had confirmation from a few clubs that they will be back. So yeah, get in contact. If you want, your club wants some media days for your social channels before the season starts. Your club's thinking about heading into the podcast zone like this. We can help produce and hire of equipment. And so, yeah, just anything digital media that your club needs. Halfback Digital Media have got you sorted. We're built for community sport. So on that note, mate, we might wrap this episode up and we'll see you next week.
no worries.